American Meditating Radio Show, we collect wisdom, inspire each other, and empower hearts 24/7. Hi, I'm Sister Jenna. Join me and guest on Blog Talk Radio as we amplify stories that compel us to be more for ourselves and everyone else around us.
The entire world watched.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
And humanity saw that the sky was not the limit. Achievement. Pass it on from the Foundation for a Better Life at values.com.
Do you like to meditate? Have you tried to meditate? Have you struggled with meditation? Why don't you visit one of the Brahma Kumaris Meditation Center? Visit brahmakumaris.org.
Hello, this is Kristen Hoffman, and it is with great love, joy, pleasure, and spirit that I am listening to America Meditating Radio Show.
Hi, I'm Angela Peabody of Global Woman Peace Foundation, and I listen to America's Meditating Radio Show.
The Meditation Museum in Silver Spring, Maryland offers a variety of courses and activities to make your life go a whole lot smoother. Located at 9525 Georgia Avenue, you will be able to experience the beautiful silence that's in the space. There are courses in Raj Yoga meditation, positive thinking, stress-free living, and personal development classes. For more information, call us at 301-588-0144 or visit us online at meditationmuseum.org.
It will never fade away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to America Meditating. I'm your host, Sister Jenna, and it's always an honor, it's a fortune, blessed to have you select our radio show to listen to on a regular basis. We really do our best to show up at the most authentic level that we possibly can, to be with you, to grow, to learn more about who we are and why we're existing on this planet. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, and she kept asking me, why do I go through these roller coaster of emotions and my life is fine? And what was interesting was my response, that it was normal. When I caught myself actually responding to that, I was expanding on it more by saying it's normal because we're not the way we were designed originally. We have just become so attached to stories, and perhaps the most compelling stories in our framing right now are the ones that weren't very comfortable, the ones that weren't very real or true or sincere or pure at heart. I have to give a big, big thumbs up to our wonderful brother, Devon Franklin. He and his wife have just published a book called The Weight, and I have to tell you, you've got to try to get a copy of that book. The Weight is all about the importance of celibacy before you get caught up in your marriage or in the depths of your relationship. And he emphasizes, or both of them emphasize, on how important it was for them to get to know each other. And I thought that was just one of the most beautiful, refreshing things I've heard in a long time, and something that's very timely in today's world. Please stay tuned. We're looking forward to interviewing Christine Hassler, having a heart-to-heart chit-chat with Christine, who is the best-selling author of Expectation Hangover, the 20-something manifester and 20-something 20 everything. So I'm looking forward to having Christine on the line and getting to learn more about who she is and her journey on our planet. Before I get Christine on the line, let's do what we do best at the America Meditating Radio. That's to go into a moment of reflection. Breathe in deeply. Om Shanti. The time that we choose to be aware doesn't necessarily require me to just sit and meditate. But even while I walk and move around, I can be in a meditative awareness, which is awareness of the soul, the original, eternal, imperishable being of light. For a little while, I'd like to invite you to be present, to be here, and to be now. Allow your mind to settle in the moment, to relax. This meditation is about awareness. It's about becoming aware of your original and eternal self. It's about connecting to your truth. Let go of your name. And observe yourself feeling nameless. Let go of your gender to discontinue thinking you're a man or a woman. Let it go and observe how you would feel walking around without a gender. Let go of the role that you play and let go of the titles that you own. Observe how you're feeling as you are gradually letting go. Let go of your religion and put it aside just for now. And let go of your nationality and even the language that you're accustomed to. Imagine you have no name, gender, role, title, religion, nationality, or even a language. Ask yourself, how do you feel at this moment? And in this feeling, who would think of you, and who would you think of? The Supreme Soul would think of you, and you, the liberated soul, would think of the Supreme. In this state of absolute freedom, I am truly who I am. A free, peaceful, pure, immortal, and eternal soul. Allow yourself to just be absorbed in this awareness. At this time, welcome back. That was Letting Go from Meditation City, one of my all-time favorites from yours truly. Well, the America Meditating Show is really, really honored to welcome Christine-Hassle. Christine is the best-selling author of Expectation Hangover, the 20-something Manifesto, and 20-something 20 Everything. She left her successful job as a Hollywood agent to pursue a life she could be passionate about. And for over a decade, as a speaker, retreat facilitator, spiritual psychologist, and life coach, and host of the top-rated podcast, Over It and On With It, Christine has been teaching and inspiring people around the world. Christine believes once we get out of our own way, we can show up to make the meaningful impact we're actually here to do. And I'm so honored to welcome Christine to the America Meditating Radio. Hi, Christine. Welcome.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for that beautiful meditation. That was wonderful.
That's one of my all-time favorites as well. You know, one of the most important times that we're living in is that a lot of us are talking about living the life that we feel we're being called to live. A life, what we might call, is of passion or meaning, but we just don't want to do what we keep being conditioned to believe we're supposed to be doing. So what led you to get out of that Hollywood agent, and I know what environment that must have been like, and how you had to sell people to people, you had to convince people, this is the actor for this part, blah, blah, blah. And then when you went home, you were like, that is such bogadesh. And part of you inside is going, there's got to be more than what I'm showing up with. What was going on with you? How did you make that move?
Well, it wasn't easy, and I think part of the challenge in feeling a calling to do something more is we have the feeling of the essence of the calling, but we don't have the form. You know, our mind really likes to know, okay, what does that mean? What form does that take? What job does that take? And that was really my challenge. Like, I knew where I wasn't it, but I didn't know what it was. But I just felt like if I continued to go down the path I was going down, I would just continue to get more depressed and more hardened inside. And not liking myself or my life wasn't a new thing that was specific to my Hollywood job. That was something I was dealing with from a very young age, including depression. And so I was consistently chasing something outside of me that would make me happy or make me feel better about myself. And I think I've been really reflecting on this a lot because I talk to a lot of people about calling and purpose. And when we initially feel that calling, what I really believe it is a calling back to ourselves, our calling back to our own authenticity, our soul calling us to do the work to get out of our own way and remember who we truly are. A lot of people want to skip right to, well, how do I change my job? But for me, even though I thought that calling was another job, it was really a calling back to myself, to look at the issues and belief systems I'd been carrying around for decades and to find my way back to my higher power and to do the work that I put aside or, quite frankly, was too scared to do because I was too busy checking things off my external goal list. So by the time it came to leaving, I wish I could say I quit my job and the next day wrote a book and started this career as a life coach and spiritual teacher, and it was just so easy. And it wasn't. Mm-hmm. And I learned that when we take a leap of faith, even though that sounds really sexy and appealing, there's a tremendous free fall period where we don't know and where there's a lot of uncertainty. So the main thing that got me to resign was I just knew that I couldn't spend another day doing something that I was so miserable at and felt completely inauthentic for me.
Mm-hmm. I hear you on that note, loud and clear. And, a friend of mine was asking me once, Sister Jenna, how do you maintain all your places? Because, we have a few museums here in D.C. and just a lot of things that we're blessed by. And we don't charge any money for anything. So she came and she said, well, I want to do the same and I want to be able to do that. And everything in my fiber knew it won't work like that for you. You've had to have been in a life of charity for a long time to begin to even see the rewards of that coming back to you. You've got to have gone through a lot to just know that you're really in this for all the right reasons and that your purpose is not wavering, so your profits will have to find you at some point. And I think that for some of us, when we are feeling that call, Christine, and we really feel that we're here to do a lot more, and we were in so much of this secular mentality of existing, right, that we weren't in that energy yet, like those small steps of spirituality, or those small steps of really listening to what's in our hearts and stuff. And so when we close that door and enter into this vast world, which we didn't have a lot of experience with, we were going to grow in it, it's a huge leap of faith. And so it is sexy when you do it, but it's also another experience when you're in it.
Exactly. Exactly. And this is, for me, where meditation became critical because so much of uncertainty and the fear that comes up is our mind going to the future. And because of that, I dealt with a lot of anxiety. And after I quit my job, other things happened. I got diagnosed with an undiagnosable autoimmune disorder. I went into thousands and thousands of dollars worth of debt. Was estranged from my family for a short time, and I got dumped by my fiancé 6 months before our wedding. So I lost everything that I clung to, job, money, relationship, health, family, for my identity, for control, for certainty, for all those things. And I had to do two really big things. I had to really feel my feelings and learn how to do that without throwing a pity party for myself and not be a victim, but also sit with myself and be with myself and find a meditation practice. And at first it was just a minute a day where I learned how to be still in the chaos and not try to, quote unquote, do anything to figure it out. Because I feel like we really have to be in that uncertainty, especially if we want to make a big pivot in our life. We have to be in the uncertainty for a while and let things settle, because there was all that conditioning that we reacted to and responded to for 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, however long it was. And when we want to make that change, for one object to transform to another, there's chaos in between. So there's this time when things do feel chaotic. And from my point of view, we really need to sit in that and let things settle before we try to go and do an entirely different thing.
Well, I have to say, I think your fiancé must be silly, because not only are you beautiful, but you're smart. But then maybe there's just someone else just incredibly amazing waiting for you, and it must have been an extremely challenging time, but I can only imagine the gifts that have emerged from within you as a result of surviving those times, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that, first of all, the ex-fiancé is the biggest blessing, set me on this path. And, it inspired all the books I wrote for 20-somethings. And then now in my 30s, the last book, Expectation Hangover, I ended up meeting someone else, getting married, but then getting divorced in my early 30s. So I've been on both sides, the one getting dumped and the one leaving. And I realized after going through my divorce, and that's what really inspired Expectation Hangover, that after you go through one really bad expectation hangover, if you really use it as an experience to grow and heal and change, when other ones come along, they aren't as severe because you're able to respond to them in different ways. So the expectation hangovers I've had since then, because that wasn't it. We don't just have one disappointment in life and then the rest is rosy. As humans, we learn through some challenges, and we learn through what I call expectation hangovers, which is basically disappointment, either from something not going to plan or just life throwing you an unexpected curveball. But now I greet them with acceptance rather than resistance. I don't try to fight with reality. I go, all right, I don't love this. I'm going to have compassion for myself, like the human part of me that's going through this. Right. But I'm going to walk through this with acceptance and with a seeker mindset. And I'm going to consistently ask, what am I learning from this, and how am I growing, and how is this for me?
Good for you. You've been on many TV shows and radio shows, and you're sharing your own experiences and speaking about life issues. And as you mentioned earlier about expectation hangover, tell me a little bit more about the book and maybe
Sure.
one or two gifts from the book that we could apply as a result of listening to this conversation between the both of us.
Oh, great. I'd love to. So I write books that I look for in the bookstore for me that I can't find. So they all come from, this is what really helped me, and this is what I know works with me and so many of my clients. And I think the personal transformation industry is wonderful. However, I have one observation that I don't think is so wonderful, which is it promises a lot of quick fixes. Like, just do this one meditation and you're cured for life. And I found a lot of people feeling like they were failing at personal growth because they'd try this one thing, this one practice, and whatever they were dealing with wasn't getting better. So I really set out to write an incredibly comprehensive book for how to heal and leverage disappointment. And so it basically is a treatment plan on the emotional, mental, behavioral, and spiritual level for basically how to heal issues. Because any expectation hangover is triggering not just what's happening in the moment, but it's triggering old issues. It's sort of like we attract things in our life to help us learn and grow. So I'll give you a couple examples of how the book works. And in the emotional section of the book, you adopt kind of the persona of a surfer, and I teach in the book how to really ride the waves of your emotion and release them rather than recycling them. And we recycle our emotion when we suppress it or judge it or analyze it or so on. In the mental section of the book, you learn how to become a horseback rider with your thoughts, how to go, whoa, and stop them. And then with the reins, redirect them. And, it's like our mind is this galloping horse, but we are the rider. And in the behavioral section, you become the scientist, and you start to really investigate and observe yourself. Like, why do you do what you do? We learn a lot about, in that section, our compensatory strategies. What did we do in our life to overcome where we felt less than? So, like, for me, I was bullied and teased my whole life. I didn't have a lot of friends. And so my compensatory strategy was to become a big overachiever. I was like, if no one's going to like me, I'll be the smartest girl in the room. Other examples of compensatory strategies: people pleasers, control freaks, kind of the performance one, caretaker, rescuer, like those things we do for identity, worth, value, but that actually don't leave us fulfilled and actually don't lead us to our calling. And then finally, in the spiritual section, we become the seeker, and we look at everything as a life lesson. Life is one big school, and we start to put the puzzle pieces of our life together. And in that section, we learn deeply about forgiveness and acceptance. And the reason I put the spiritual section last is because I found with working with people, until we handle the emotions, change our thoughts, shift behavior, sometimes we can go into spiritual bypass, just sort of elevating ourselves above it and not really going in and doing the work on the human level that we need to do. So it's not like a beach read kind of book. There's lots of exercises. You can download meditations because I love doing guided meditations. And one of my favorite exercises from the book that I'll share just to answer your question is something that I found most of us are really, really good at is judging ourselves. What we're not often so good at is being compassionate with ourselves. So my favorite tool is to get a picture of ourselves when we're little, like anywhere between 1 and 5. You can draw a picture if you don't have it, and keep that picture close. Like I carry one in my purse and I have one on my phone because we always have our phone. And when my inner critic comes up and I notice myself judging myself, I look at that picture of me as a little girl and I look into my own eyes. And there's something that happens when you look at you when you're little and connect to yourself where it's just instant compassion. And so that's a great pattern interrupt tool during those times when we're being pretty harsh on ourselves.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. It reminds me of an exercise that I've done with folks, and I ask them, imagine yourself to be a 1-year-old and look at that person as a 1-year-old. And it just breaks the ego to such an extent. I can't begin to tell you that while you were talking, I'm thinking at the same time, which is what we do because we're such all good listeners. And I was just thinking, when you were saying that, you kind of knew that, you were bullied and this and that, so you grew up to be an overachiever. And I'm looking at my life and I go, I don't know if I'm an overachiever. I know I do a lot, but I do a lot now because I just love what I'm doing. I think I have found my groove. I think I've found what I'm supposed to be doing. And so in terms of, am I doing this for others to acknowledge my worth? I don't know. Maybe at some point in my last breath it'll kind of get clearer to me. But there's one thing that I do know, Christina, that I've been observing is that when I feel I've been hurt or disrespected, and I don't know where this energy inside of me comes from, but I go, I'm going to seek revenge and I'm going to be such a good person that they're just going to hate when they see me and I'm just so good. And I said to myself years ago, I go, where does that come from? Why is it that for you revenge is to be better? And regardless of whatever you're going through, it's still not a good intent. That's not what you're here for. You're here for to be, as you were sharing, as comfortable with you, the best you. And in Indian culture, we call that equivalent to being like a deity, which is a human being with divine virtues. So after all of this that we go through called life, is it at the end we're actually all just trying to return to a place within ourselves that is like a deity, that is this human being that's so filled with the qualities of a 5-year-old?
Yeah, I love your authenticity, and I love you reminding everyone that you, me, we all are human, and we're all still have those moments when we go into our ego and we want revenge or we want whatever. We want those things that are very much those defense mechanism old patterns, and so much of what I think we're here for is not a learning process but a remembering process. When people come to me and they say, I want to learn to love myself, I want to learn how to be more of who I am, I say, well, really it's about remembering. It's about removing all the layers and walls and defense mechanisms and belief systems that have got you sheltered from who you truly are. And, that was a relief to me when I learned that, and I hope it's a relief to people listening that it's in there. And it's not something you have to go out and seek. I think we're so conditioned to go out and find something instead of trusting that things will come to us, and also trusting that all the answers we need are inside. And this precious gem of a soul that is just so authentic and such pure love, just like that of a child, is really who we are.
Love it. That's fantastic. You mentioned a little bit about comfort zones because I want to go there. I know that I won't mention her name, but I'm sure she's listening on the air. But, there's this tendency of going into a place of consciousness or even a physical cycle or a physical pattern where you feel safe. And we all know that, to me, safety comes from the ability to maintain a lot of positive and pure thoughts over a long period of time. You just know you're safe. I mean, just today, I just had this intuitive feeling to take one of our other cars this morning to the museum. And I forgot to, finish something, and then I ended up just taking the car to the mechanic. And whilst there, something in the engine just falls out, like the engine falls out. And I went, I could have been driving that car on the highway, and that wouldn't have been a nice experience. Yeah. So as much as I would have taken my car that I really enjoyed doing, I decided to just take another one. And I'm only getting to this point of we get into these comfort zones, we feel safe, we don't challenge our own ability to increase our capacity, to expand our capacity.
Right.
Could you share with our listeners a little bit about how damaging are comfort zones and what can we do to get out of them, Christine?
Well, I really believe that if you don't get out of it on your own, the universe will serve up something to push you out, and that's often kind of the curveball type of expectation hangover, and I'm sure people listening can relate to that when you're like, whoa, didn't see that one coming, and all of a sudden you're out of your comfort zone. So now I prefer to do things that stretch me, by choice. And here's the thing. Getting out of your comfort zone doesn't mean you have to quit your job tomorrow or leave your marriage or, take a trip to India and backpack around, another country for a month. It can be little things like taking an improv class or really looking at where you hold back in communication and aren't authentic with how you speak. It can be choosing to, even little things like you said today, choosing to drive a different car, choosing to go a different way to work. But if you really get that your comfort zone is only comfortable because it's familiar and not because it's going to get you where you want to go, then we have a new way to look at it. Because I think a lot of us confuse safety with complacency, and people want excitement in their life. They want to feel more alive, but they're not doing anything to stretch themselves. And so life keeps repeating. It's like rinse and repeat every single day, same old, same old. So those stretches, even little things that we do differently every day that make us feel uncomfortable, that make us feel a little bit out of control. Like, I'll give you the example of improv classes. After my divorce, I wrote this list of, everything I want in a man, and then I caught myself, and I'm like, geez, Christine, you just got out of another relationship, and already you're looking for the next one. Maybe you just need to not be with someone for a while. And that in itself was out of my comfort zone, because my comfort zone was being in relationship, one after the other since I was 19. No single time. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to commit to at least 2 years of not being in a relationship. And everything on this list that I want in a man, I'm going to go out and become, except over 6 feet. So one of the things on the list was has a great sense of humor and is funny. So I said to myself, all right, I'm not that funny yet, or maybe I am, but I just need to rediscover it. I'm going to go take improv classes. And so that was a huge stretch. And that not only got me out of my comfort zone, but it also got me into the vibration of what I really wanted to attract. Because again, when we stay in this little comfort zone and we say we want all these different things, if we're not doing things in our life to become that energetic frequency, how do we expect to draw them in? We'll just use the relationship of dating, the example of relationships, since I was using that. But a lot of times people come to me and they're like, I really want someone that's passionate and on purpose and exciting. Meanwhile, they haven't done anything exciting that they're passionate about in years. I'm like, well, go out and be that instead of wanting it to come to you.
I always call that insanity, Christine. How could you want something you have no experience of what it's going to feel like? I love what you're saying, and I love every bit of the step that you have shared with not only myself but with all of our listeners, because they are real-time processes that every soul, really, we all have to go through these stages. And maybe at the tail end of the journey where we've been there, done that. We can only go through so many partners. We can only go through so many horrible people. We can only go through so many wonderful people. We can only keep dreaming as much as we can dream. But, real time, like right now, like what you said, why don't you become what you keep looking for? And that's maybe the cure for the hangover, right?
Yes. When we stop looking for things outside of ourselves and realize that we can generate them inside of ourselves, that's the ultimate shift And to me, that's how I have found, I won't say happiness, because happiness isn't sustainable, but that's where I have found fulfillment and peace. And,
beautiful.
Anything I want, it's like, all right, how am I going to create that? And that's not to say I love other people and I love going out and doing things, but kind of going back to what you said when you were talking about, am I doing these things to get acknowledgement or whatever? I think it's the difference between being motivated and driven and pushing, thinking that something you achieve is going to make you feel a certain way, versus truly feeling inspired. And really coming from an inside out. Like everything I do, and my guess is everything you do, really comes from a place of, this is how the most authentic me expresses in the world.
Oh, yeah, for sure. There's definitely not another mold.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Hey, I have loved your spirit and your truthfulness and just your demeanor on this conversation, and I would really love to have you back too. I believe that our listeners that tune into this show are really into growth, and they're really into developing themselves, and the more we can offer our friends and fans tools that just make them better people in our world, we don't have to deal with more wars and games that people play with each other just because they don't have a vision of their higher self. So I want to thank you for everything that you've shared with us today. I've got one more question before I let you go, and it's just kind of coming up in my mind as a result of our discussion. You talked about a higher power, and you did talk about being connected to that. When you talk about this higher power, are you talking about God? Are you talking about supreme energy? Are you talking about higher intelligence? Or it just doesn't matter the language, it really just is that supreme being?
Everybody has their own language for it, and I think that's what's most important, to find the semantics, to find the language that works for you. I mean, for me, they're so interchangeable. I can pretty much go to any church, temple, synagogue, mosque, whatever it is, and find my own connection to higher power. And, one of my teachers, Mona, she taught me, back when I started studying with her when I was 23, and she said, if you chunk every religion up high enough, they all say the same thing. It's really just about truth and love. Truth and love. Truth and love.
Beautiful. And that's really what it is, isn't it? God is truth and love. Beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us today. I really want you to come back on and share a little bit more with us because we're running out of time. Yeah. Leave us with your favorite life quote, a website where individuals can find out more about you, and perhaps get a copy of your wonderful book.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I know this is one that you've probably heard before, but it reflects to our conversation. The quote is, "Be the change you want to see in the world," by none other than Gandhi. And you can connect with me at christinehassler.com, ChristineHassler. And my podcast is actually not an interview-based podcast. I life coach people. It's life coach and spiritual counseling live on the air. So you can listen to episodes of that and it's called Over It and On With It. And that's on iTunes and all the platforms. And then Expectation Hangover, it actually is out in hardcover and comes out in paperback on February 15th. And that's Amazon, bookstores, wherever you buy books, it's there.
All right. Christine Hassler, thank you so very much, and all the very best.
Thank you so much for having me. I loved our conversation.
Me too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You can go through ins and outs, ups and downs, decide to live your passion and wonder what in the world just happened, and all the things that we might go through just to help us to come from a place that is deeper, realer, more real than ever before, to come from a liberated sense of yourself. Look, my friends, I have come to the foregone conclusion of over 20-something years of spirituality. I'm not saying this is it, but I have to tell you, it is about being as considerate and thoughtful and open and honest and kind with folks along the way. And I feel that in order for us to come from that place, just attention, pay attention to what you're thinking and what you're feeling so that you can get over your own spiritual hangover and really, really live a really fulfilling life. I like what Christine was saying. If you want something outside of you, you've got to raise the frequency of that. You've got to put that energy in you in order for you to get that. And I have to say, touche. It's very, very true. Thank you so much for joining us on the air today. Please go and visit Christine at christinehassler.com. And as we generally end the show, no one can take away your happiness unless you give them permission. We are here to love each other the same, and if you're planning to change the world, just start with changing yourself. Please follow our wonderful conversation on America Meditating Blog Talk Radio and sign up. Tell your friends about it. Do some charity. Share it. Remember, everything here is offered as charity. And so sometimes some of the best things in life really are free. Take care, everyone. I'll end today's show with Lone Space by Bliss.
Take the